Hi, this is Kat with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make the Odessa earrings featuring Cymbal earring posts for SuperDuo beads. So this is the finished piece here, so you can see that I have my nice little SuperDuos nestled right into that Cymbal earring finding, and it's really nice. They've coordinated them to work with specific beads, so this is going to work with the little SuperDuos. All right, so I have two colors here that I'm going to be working with. I have this beautiful blue and this beautiful sort of raspberry red color. I have two size 12 beading needles, and onto these beading needles I have one strand of 3 feet of the Smoke FireLine in the 4-pound. So we're going to be using a little double needle method for this one. And then the only other tools that you're going to need is a pair of scissors or a thread zapper. All right, so if you have everything ready to go, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to be using, like I said, that double needle method. And to start, I'm actually going to take this Cymbal earring post and I'm going to flip it over. I think it's just going to be a little bit easier to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to take two of those little SuperDuos and just sort of place them on their sides in those two little notches that are right in the center there. And I know this seems a little silly, but you'll see why in a second. It's hard to get your needle all the way through there without sort of having to do multiple passes. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pick up one of our little raspberry beads and go ahead and let that slide down, and now take the needle in your right hand and sort of get it through those first little holes there. Oops, and you can see I'm already knocking it out of place. And go ahead and just sort of try to pick up that little bead. This is really the hardest part, I promise. And grab that hole and come out the other side. All right, so you see that? So it wasn't too bad. All right, and then I'm going to, before I pull this all the way through, string on one more of those raspberry beads and slide that down until it is about in the center of my FireLine. So just sort of adjust if you need to. I know mine's getting a little out of frame there, hold on. Adjust if you need to, but we just want to make sure that that's nice and centered for us. All right, there we go. And now what we're going to do is we are going to turn around our thread. Now I'm right-handed, so I always tend to work with the right needle first, but if you're left-handed and you want to do that, please feel free. Okay, so now what we're going to do, turn around your thread and go through that first raspberry bead there, and we're going to pull that through. There we go. Actually, fix that. There we go. All right. Now don't worry too much about your tension just yet. It'll start to kind of come together and you'll see, so don't worry if you have some slack beads there. All right, so now pick up one of the blue beads, go through a blue bead, pick up one raspberry bead, go through the blue bead. And I'm trying to keep this on my table so you can sort of see it develop as I work. If it helps you, you can absolutely pick it up with your hands. All right, now this last blue bead, I'm just going to let hang there, so I'm not going to go through that last raspberry bead. So now the needle that's in my left hand, I'm going to turn that around and go right through that same thread pass. So this is that little crisscross method, and you want to make sure that you're picking up all the beads. Now you might be able to do this in one fell swoop. You can see I'm sort of taking my needle and kind of going back and forth, just making sure I pick up all those beads. And I'm going to come out that last blue bead without picking up that last raspberry bead. Okay, let me get my hand out of the way so you can see what's happening there. All right, so there we go. So we've crisscrossed through, so I'm coming out the top hole of these two little blue beads right here. Okay, so we didn't go all the way through to the outside. Now what I'm trying to avoid here is creating those thread bridges on the outside of the design. So that's why we're doing it this way. Okay, now the needle that's in my right hand, I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to go through that little blue bead, pull that all the way through. I'm now going to pick up a raspberry bead, go through the raspberry. I call them raspberry. They could be pink, magenta, whatever you're feeling. All right, there we go. Pick up another one, another pink, and go through that blue bead on the outside. And now what we're going to do is we are going to pick up, get that? We're going to pick up one of those blue beads. and we're just going to kind of let him hang out to the side there, okay? Now, so you don't get confused, I'm going to just kind of kick him out to the side. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go back through that whole little thread pass, and I'm trying to do this with my hands out of the way so you all can see, and go through. Oop, and I can only get through one on that one. That's okay, that's what I mean, like if you need to turn it around or sort of adjust it, and let me just sort of pick it up so you can see. But we're just going to crisscross back through. And I'm creating a little design in mind. If you want, you can do this, you know, sort of without that. There's nothing saying you can't. All right, so now I'm coming out that blue bead to the side, and I'm going to add on one more blue bead, just like so. Okay, so now I have my two little sort of hanging blue beads. So now take your right needle and go through that blue bead. Here we go. And I'm going to add on another blue bead, go through my raspberry, pick up another raspberry, go through, and pick up one more blue, and I'm just going to let him kind of hang out there, okay? So now what we're going to do is take the needle in the left hand, turn that first one around, and go through that SuperDuo there, and try to go all the way through if we can, but we are only going to go through that first little blue bead there. So it's the same method where you sort of don't go through that last bead, okay? So on both of these, again, we are coming out the top hole of these two little blue beads here. Let me see if I can get that more. There you go. These two little blue beads here, okay? So this is sort of that little method, and then as we continue, this is what I mean, where you can, if you want, you can lengthen it, you can make this a much longer piece, but what we're going to start to do now here in a second is we're going to do one more row of that, and then we're going to taper it down. So go ahead and turn your thread around on the right needle, and we're going to go ahead and pick up a blue SuperDuo, go through that raspberry there, pick up another blue SuperDuo, go through that go through the blue, and now we're going to pick up one of those raspberries and let that fall to the side. So you can see that this is the same kind of method here that we're doing, because we don't want to create any of those extra thread bridges if we don't have to. Go back through, and sorry, I'm going to make sure I turn this around correctly. Go all the way back through, out the side. There we go. Sorry for the little turnaround there. And pick up, come on, pick up one more of those raspberry beads and slide that down. Okay. All right, so now we can go back through, and now here's where we start the taper. So we're going to go back through that raspberry bead on the outside, pick up one raspberry bead, go through, sorry, let me make sure it's in camera, sorry, and then one of the blue beads, and then one raspberry bead, and let that just kind of sit there. And then on the left-hand needle, we're going to turn that around, and we're going to go all the way back through all of those little beads there. And we're going to come out. We don't want to go through that final raspberry bead. Don't want to go through that. There we go. I feel like this might look a little bit more complicated because I'm trying to pick it up and put it down so you can see. But once you sort of get this going, it's a little easier to work with, to finagle. All right, now I'm just kind of giving everything a little tug, making sure everyone's nice and tight in there. Okay, so now, usually we would add on that extra bead on the outside, but now we are just going to taper it down. So all I'm going to do is go through that raspberry bead there, add on another, add on one more, come on, slide down. There we go. All right, and he's just going to hang out in there. And then we're going to take our needle and go back through because we don't want to create that thread bridge on the outside. And through that blue. And we can go through that little pink bead there. Perfect. All right, now turn that around. And for my little design here, I'm finishing it off with one of the blue beads. And just sort of crisscrossing that through. There we go. And now I'm coming out the top of that pink bead there, and I'm just going to crisscross that through so that you can see that this is where we're coming out here, just to the sides of those purple beads. So now all you need to do is loop it back through and tie off your threads. So I'll show you that really quick. So I'm just going to go back through this one purple bead, or pink, or raspberry, whichever color you decide it is. Now because I've tightened it up, I am having a little trouble kind of getting my needle through there, so just be patient. There we go. All right, so I'm going to pull nice and tight. I'm going to go down and I'm going to catch that little thread bridge that's in between those beads, create a little loop, bring my needle through, and pull, 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 pull tight. Now, because this isn't a bracelet, you don't need to do multiple knots if you don't like. I think, you know, sort of one knot should really do it. So I'm just going to do that and then remove that. Move to the other side. Let's tie off our other little thread here. Get that out of the way. There we go. And just the same thing. So there is this sort of one bead on the bottom that you'll have that extra thread. Now, if you are using lighter color beads, I recommend you use the crystal FireLine. If you are using black beads or very dark beads, we also do have the black satin FireLine, so you can use that as well if you need something that's a little bit darker, if the smoke's a little light for you, because it's kind of a gray. All right, and sneak through. Come on. There we go. Now the reason I'm also doing this all on the back is that I can zap all my threads off on the back so the front is nice and clean. So I just come in with my thread zapper, let it heat up for just a second there, and zap off one thread. And all I'm doing is just touching it to the thread, and it's sort of sealing it and zapping it off for me. There we go. Okay. So that is it. I know it seemed a little crazy there, but it's a really fun result, and I love the way that these earrings can look together. You can choose lots of different colors, you can choose lots of different styles. Like I said, I did a little diamond style there. You can absolutely do it longer, lots of fun things to do, and just go ahead and choose your favorite earring back to finish the look. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can see more videos and even more full tutorials by heading over to Beadaholique.com. Of course, you can shop everything you've seen here at Beadaholique.com as well. And if you're new here to our YouTube channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button below to get all the latest from Beadaholique.